Hey everybody, Mike Portnoy here, and I just wanted to congratulate Roy and everybody at the Prog Report on 10 years, a decade of the Prog Report. That's incredible. Thank you guys so much for all the support for all these years and for bringing great music to people all around the world. We love you, and here's to another 10, and another 10 after that, and another 10 after that. All the best, guys, and thanks for everything. Congratulations.
Hi, this is Mike, Jordan, and John from Dream Theater.
And we are hanging out here in Glasgow, ready to play our gig tonight and thinking about Prog Report because it's the 10th anniversary of Prog Report, and we are excited.
That's right. Happy anniversary, Prog Report. Thanks for all your support of Dream Theater and everything Prog. Congrats, Roy. Here's to another 10, another 100. Awesome job.
Hey, everybody. There's the pups. There's Ivy and there's Chloe. All right. Hey, and there's the Neil Morse Band. Happy 10th anniversary to the Prog Report. Love you guys. Roy, you're awesome, and thanks for all the good coverage, and wish you guys all the best on your 10th anniversary. God bless you. Take care. Bye.
Hi, Prog Report. It's Pete Roberts from Transatlantic and Meridian. Just wishing you a happy 10th anniversary. Well done, congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Steve Hackett here. Happy 10th anniversary, Prog Report.
Happy 10th anniversary, Prog Report, and thank you so much for all you've done for me and for the prog community. Best of luck and continuation. Bye.
Hey guys, this is Dave Maros with Spock's Beard and Pattern Seeking Animals. I just wanted to wish our friends at Prog Report a happy 10th anniversary.
Hey everybody, Matt from Periphery here, and I just wanted to say happy 10th anniversary to the Prog Report. Thank you for having me. As always, it's always great, and hopefully we'll see you guys on a cruise in a hot tub soon.
Prog Report, wishing you a very happy 10-year anniversary. Here's to another 10 great years. Thank you.
Hey guys, Jim from Caligula's Horse here, and on behalf of everybody in the Seahorse organization, I just wanted to wish a very happy 10-year anniversary to the Prog Report. Thanks for the support. Thanks for making a difference. Happy 10 years. Take care of each other.
Hi, I'm Marius from Riverside. We just finished the show here in Orlando, and I'd like to say happy birthday, dear Prog Report. We have always very good connection between us. On Riverside. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, I am Arjen Lucas from Arion and loads of other projects. Anyway, Roy told me that Prog Report has its 10th anniversary. So I just want to congratulate you, hard word, congratulate you guys, and please keep up the good work. You guys have always supported me, and I love the show. So please keep it up and prog on. Okay, bye.
Hi, we are Haken. We want to wish the Prog Report a happy 10th birthday. Thank you for all your support over the years.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Prog Report. Happy birthday to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 10th anniversary podcast episode. I'd like to thank all the artists for making that previous video that you saw. That was very cool of everybody to do, and we're extremely grateful that they took some time out to do that. But we got a nice group here of our almost regulars that you guys know and maybe love, and have been around for a while with me doing this thing. So I don't know, everybody just go around and say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
We got John, we got Kyle, we got Vic, we got Dan, and we have Jeff. Unfortunately, a couple of guys couldn't make it. Prognik had something that he had to attend to while we were doing this at the last minute, and Christian, who also has been doing some stuff for us over the years, couldn't make it as well. But we love those guys and thank them for everything. And we're gonna hear from Nick. He sent in a really great greeting to give his thoughts on everything. One quick thing I want to point out, you see the artwork behind me. If you haven't seen it, there's a 10th anniversary Prog Report shirt with sort of this clock highlighting a 10 and some cool artwork by Dan Goldsworthy, who did Haken artwork and stuff. I'm wearing the shirt here, if you can kind of make it out. And it's for sale now. If you go to our socials, you can find the link. It also helps support Casey McPherson's cause to cure Rose. Portion of the sales go to that. The shirt's only $25, and so it's worth picking it up. They're really cool, good quality shirts, and help support a nice cause. So please pick one up if you can. We have them on sale for a limited time. So I don't know. My plan on doing this episode was one, just to get the group together. It's harder and harder these days to get the group together. Now that everybody's back to work, everybody's back to their normal lives. No more COVID. No more sitting at home waiting for me to bother you guys to do a podcast. And also for me, it's a big deal. You know, I didn't anticipate doing this, I don't know, 10 months, much less 10 years. When I started the podcast in 2013 in June, officially June 1st, as I've looked back and saw the first post that I made, which was a review of Stephen Wilson's The Raven That Refused to Sing, was the first review and article on the website. You know, fitting. I think that was, you know, around that time, I think that was one of the reasons why I felt like starting it to begin with. But was just I needed an outlet to tell people to listen to this new album that I liked. But anyway, along the way, met all these crazy fools and become some of my best friends in the world, and it's been a lot of fun. So I wanted to, you know, just bring you guys in and just celebrate this a little bit and have a little bit of fun and goof off and talk about our favorite moments, favorite albums, favorite stuff like that over the last 10 years. So with that said, I mean, I will leave it open to whoever wants to jump in and say something.
I'll start, seeing as I have the longest
Seniority.
relationship with Roy. Our relationship goes to before the Prog Report, but when he finally got this thing up and running, you know, and we've talked about this many times before, this is what he used to do. Is he would hear something cool and call his friends and say, hey, you got to check this out, you got to check that out. And he's always had the heart for putting a spotlight on bands that he just appreciates their talent, appreciates their music, and really got us hooked on a lot of different things that by the time that, you know, in the 90s, rock and roll started to sort of go not the way of mainstream media, but he still, you know, encouraged us to listen to different bands and all that. And so the Prog Report makes perfect sense. I also, once he started the Prog Report, which was kind of great timing, which I'm sure that others will share in the experience of Progressive Nation at sea. I remember going around with Roy with the little, you know, door hangers on the entire ship just to get the word out there on the Prog Report. And I'm sure that Roy can attest to what the numbers were before and then after that cruise. That cruise is where we met Prognik. I'm wondering if he's going to say something in his video. But yeah, he's doing a great job with the Prog Report. And then all these guys, we all share the same passion and we love music. And it's really cool to literally be from all over the world to come together and just enjoy on something as universal as music.
Yep, right on. I mean,
Well said.
the funny thing was that I think I started this without knowing Progressive Nation at Sea was happening. I don't think it was announced at the time.
No.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just an outlet for me. I had been in the music business for years before. Kyle, you know, knows all about that, Kyle Graves. And this was sort of a way for me to still have my foot in and just share music. Like, there was a lot of great albums coming out at the time from people, from bands that were even new to me. I was discovering stuff like Big Big Train and Sound of Contact, and then Stephen Wilson was doing his solo records, and Thank You Scientist, and all these bands that were like really new and cool. And I thought, this is a really cool time. And it just was an outlet for me to do it. at the same time that cruise happened, and we, at that time, Vic, you started kind of helping out, and we made the decision to make some shirts and make some door hangers and go around and spread the word and all. And then what was funny was we had been around maybe 3 months by that point with a few hundred followers or something on Facebook. I don't even remember. And prognik, tracked us down. He saw us and said, "Hey, I follow you guys all the way from South Africa." And at that time, that was definitely mind blowing. We had no idea, which was really super cool. And then Mike Portnoy thanked us for doing a lot of promo around the cruise, and that was kind of a really cool big deal. And then I think by that January we had reached 1,000 followers or something, and it was really starting to move pretty quickly. So and then more. I think all sort of these things helped at the same time. I mean, without the cruises and without Morse Fest, and then maybe we don't meet each other, and I don't know. It was just a weird time of all these things kind of happening that helped it all come across. A few years prior, without all those events, I'm not sure it has the same growth or impact. I'm not sure.
Who's in the alternative universe version of this call?
Yeah, right.
You never know.
Well, did it start as a web? I don't know this. Did it start as just the website?
Yeah.
Or did you do podcasts right from the start?
No. Well, sort of. I started the website with the intention of just doing the reviews. That was it. And then I actually thought maybe at some point I can interview some people, but that happened really quickly. So I emailed some of the labels, and I reached out to Inside Out, and I got in contact with the guy who's working at Inside Out, Edgel Groves, who I owe a lot to this website. And he very quickly thought it looked cool and was a good idea. And there wasn't a lot of US presence for Prog. And really quickly he said, "Hey, do you want to interview James Labrie?" And I had never interviewed anybody, and I had never had it. I didn't have this set up for it. So the first interview was James Labrie for his solo record at the time, about a couple months into the podcast.
Was he lip syncing the interview, or was it live? Did he do it live?
Man. No, James was awesome. And for him to do the interview with us having zero background of doing any, was pretty cool. And I think 5 interviews in, we were speaking to Portnoy because he wanted to promote the cruise. So I mean, again, it was just fortuitous, it was just like luck, honestly.
So wait, first guest was James Labrie, is that right?
Yeah.
A pretty good first guest.
I know. This is remarkable.
I was totally, to know Roy and to know just how we were just always been big fans, to hear him doing interviews with James Labrie, Dream Theater guys. It was like, wow, that's a great way to start. That was awesome for me to sit and witness that. I was so excited for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were legit from the beginning, man. And I think the key here is like all these guys have joined in. I sort of feel like a junior member because you guys do a lot more podcasts and such, but it took a visionary, like you had an idea, and any one of us could have had the same idea, but without the follow through and the execution, and you've built it into this thing, and I think it was a lot of that. It was Progressive Nation, and then Morse Fest started happening, and we all started meeting, and the synergy just naturally happened. But it started with you, brother.
Thanks, man. It was really a surprise. The thing with Morse Fest that blew my mind was like, other people know who Neil Morse is. That was the thing. Because I didn't know anyone that knew who he was other than Victor. That's it. Like, it never happened.
And Neil Morse, I only knew because Roy
because of me.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
so then we go to Morse Fest, and it's like a whole big 800 people all knowing all the songs, and it was just like, this is crazy. How is this more possible?
Of me.
was the first Morse Fest you went to was 2015?
Yeah, the second one.
So that was the year that I met you guys, and I was helping out.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
I was helping out at the merch stand, and you came over and asked, you had like, I think there were little postcards maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you asked, could we put
and
a
maybe
postcard?
these?
And the picture.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, well, and then we sat next to John in the red shirt there. Vic and I sat next to him. He was the first person we met at Morse Fest.
Yeah, it was crazy. I had just gotten into Neil 2 years earlier, and when the first Morse Fest happened, it was like, do I really want to go travel by myself to go to a festival for a weekend? I go, yeah, this is amazing music. I was into your traditional, Styx, Kansas, Rush stuff, but then getting into this different kind of a subgenre of prog, it was just a fascinating thing. And then meeting you two, and then seeing everybody else, like, well, those guys look pretty cool. And all of a sudden, I'm friends with you guys and doing stuff for the Prog Report and taking pictures and everything. It's just been a whirlwind, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you asked, could you do that? And that was my first year helping out at Morse Fest, and I really wasn't sure. I didn't feel I had authority to make that decision. And so I think I probably sort of slightly said, well, I'll see what I can do, and then went and checked, because I'm quite compliant, I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
You guys know that.
You're the most compliant.
And then my other memory is towards the end of that weekend that you guys gave me a t-shirt. And then I remember talking to Vic, and I think we must have been talking about that we played guitar, and you gave me like about 20 of those guitar picks. I think you might have given me the bag of what you had left, because I've got a ton of them here.
I only got one.
And the other thing I remember about that t-shirt, I think I probably still do have it, but it is kind of like got a silvery kind of it's nearly like luminous. And actually I can remember going to see, well, I think it was Porcupine Tree actually, and they played in quite a small club in Belfast, and I was absolutely convinced that Stephen Wilson was looking at me. And then I looked down and realized that this kind of silvery, kind of slightly luminous t-shirt, that maybe that's what he was looking at. But probably not. But there you go.
Kyle,
maybe he's a big fan of the site.
Didn't you win something from the Prog Report like early on?
I won.
You did. Okay, somebody.
Yeah. I got I think Second Nature by Flying Colors.
Okay.
Really early on. I mean, around 2014 when it came out.
Had you met Roy yet?
No.
Oh, wow.
I mean, how many people were in that giveaway, Roy? Maybe, I don't know, 100?
I don't remember.
Yeah, sure. 100. That sounds right. He picked the cutest person who entered,
Yeah.
Made sure that.
So yeah, that was me. That was around when I came across you guys, which was I think before Morse Fest. You guys, I mean us guys, right? I'm part of it.
So wait, what about the everybody else was on Prog Nation at Sea? Well, not everybody else, but a lot of us, and a lot of us that aren't on this call that are also good friends. But at what point did some of you guys meet? Kyle, Dan, and Kyle.
The first one I met was Kyle Fagala. We met at a Neil Morse Flower Kings concert, May 2013. So it's been 10 years this year, right? Yeah. So I met Kyle there, and then we met at Morse Fest a few months later, and we hung out. And then I met the other Kyle Graves, and a bunch of our other friends, and it kind of became a TV show. We had like a rotating cast, some people coming into the group, some people leaving the group.
Yeah.
And then I think around 2016, the Snow Year, I think that's when I met Roy and Vic, and probably when we started getting closer. Probably between that and it was like the Similitude tour, and a bunch of us went to a couple concerts and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it sort of just grew from there. The first few years. Oh, sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, this side of the pond, I'm just trying to think. Well, apart from you and Vic, so I was over in England seeing Neil Morse, and it was the tour with the Flower Kings, and the London show. So that was 2013. That was March 2013. Yeah. Daniel was at the London show, but I didn't know him. And then we went up to Wolverhampton for the show the next night, and we were out for breakfast with Neil. And when we were walking back to the venue, this guy came running towards us, and it was Prognik who had spotted Neil, and I took a photograph of Prognik outside the venue in Wolverhampton at like kind of 10 a.m. in the morning or something.
Let's go ahead and hear from Prognik. And he sent a nice message in. It's a few minutes, but I think it's really nice, and I want to share that. So let me go ahead and get that on here.
Hi everybody, Nick here. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be part of the podcast that you're watching today, but Roy very kindly asked me to send in a recording so that I could also be part of this podcast. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Roy. And thank you for so much else, Roy. Wow, it's been an amazing 10 years, hasn't it? 10 years of the Prog Report. Just think about that. What a time it has been. What a time of bonding and friendship and amazing music and opportunities. And I really want to thank you, Roy, for everything you've done for me and the rest of the team at the Prog Report. And we really do appreciate it, man, more than you would know. I think back to 2016, I think it was, when all of a sudden I got a Facebook Messenger message from this guy, Roy Avon, who said, "Hey man, I met you on Cruise to the Edge. I wondered whether you might be interested in writing a review for my website, the Prog Report." And I thought, okay, I'll give that a bash. And so I did, and I wrote my first review for the Prog Report, which was of the album All That You Fear Is Gone by Headspace. And I wrote that report, and it seemed to go down really well. And then from there, we proceeded to dozens and dozens of other reviews. We proceeded, of course, into podcasts and recordings and interviews and live streams, even with artists. And it's just been an incredible time, Roy. And we're very grateful to you for everything that you've done for us and for the prog community in general. A few highlights for me personally, I guess, are when artists acknowledged our reviews and personally sent messages to say, "Wow, thank you, you really got it." One in particular that stands out in my mind is John Mitchell, who sent me a message, or actually sent it through Roy, of course, being the editor, and sent a message saying, "Wow, the review that the Prog Report did of Feelings Are Good," which was his album of the time, really hit home and resonated with him, and he felt that we really got it. We really got him. And that resonated with me, of course. It was very gratifying to hear that. This has happened quite a lot. It's happened with artists like John Young and various others as well. And I guess I would count those as highlights, because when the artist acknowledges your own acknowledgement of their work, that's just amazing. Other highlights, of course, all the best ofs and the 50 best lists, and in particular the best of albums of 1972 and 1973 with Mike Portnoy. Those were amazing times. Interviewing Nick DiVigilio, one of my mentor hero drummers for the Best of Tears for Fears podcast. Going on Cruise to the Edge 2022 with Roy, where we had just an amazing time, even though we were so busy with all the shows. And I think one particular moment that stands out also is Morse Fest 2018, when The Great Nothing was played live, and I was lucky enough to be there, standing in between Roy and Victor. And that was an immensely emotional moment, as Victor has mentioned on a few occasions. Just a wonderful memory. I also have to note other memories, like meeting Jeff before we even got involved with the Prog Report at a Neil Morse concert in the UK. And then later on discovering each other as co-reporters on the Prog Report. Seeing Daniel here in South Africa, where I'm speaking to you from. Thanks for that, Danny. There was a very special time that we had together here. Kyle F., making sure always that we got the good seats at every Morse Fest, and just sharing his general wisdom about prog music. recording Roy's song Stranded with Kyle G. Wow, what a moment that was. I mean, it's not really officially the Prog Report moment, but it was a great memory nonetheless. And of course, included in that recording was our great friend Bosco. Shout out to Bosco. Who can forget the Prog from Home concert? That was just an incredibly rewarding event. Not that I had anything to do with putting it together, but just being part of it was just fantastic, unforgettable, and I'm sure that there'll be other events in the future. I have to say, generally, that having been introduced personally to music that I otherwise, even though I consider myself a bit of a prog aficionado and certainly a prog fan, music that I otherwise would never have discovered through the prog report. I mean, artists that to me are everyday listens today, like Jonas Lindberg, Jason Bieler, 6x6, and in particular one that Jeff takes the kudos for, Kite Parade. That's the type of music that I probably just wouldn't have discovered if it had not been for the Prog Report. Above all, folks, the friendship, the camaraderie, the kinship between us all at the Prog Report. That is really my abiding memory of it all. You know, we have an annual year-end party, if you want to call it that, where we all get together and we don't necessarily talk about prog music. We just talk to each other as friends. That is just about the friendship. And those darn year-end quizzes of yours, Jeff. I won the first one and then never again. I think I came last in the middle one and then third or fourth last in the others. They get harder and harder, man. Give us a break. But the friendship is really what it's all about at the end of the day for us here, as much as it is the music. And thank you for that, Roy. Thank you for introducing us, keeping us together, and it's just been fantastic. From the US to South Africa to Brazil, the love just goes out to and from our four countries. Love and respect to all of you guys, aplenty. Here's to the next 10 years, Roy, and congratulations, man. Bye from South Africa.
Wow, that was awesome.
Very
Nick is
awesome.
awesome. Yeah.
That was great, right? Yeah.
How much do we love Prognik?
He's the best.
Yeah,
And
the best.
He's the best.
He's not here, but that message was amazing. So
Yep.
Yeah, it makes me not want to talk because he speaks so well.
Yeah.
He
I want
was
him to
like-
read me like a lullaby or like a
well,
night.
he writes
Exactly,
better than
yeah.
all of us, and he speaks better than all of us. So you
Yeah.
know, there's that.
He is the wordsmith.
So anyway, I did think that what would be fun to do, what happened? Okay. Would be to go around and just share some of our favorite albums over the last 10 years or some of our favorite moments. So I have a list of my favorite records. I'll just go ahead and start this off and then, you know, not intended to be a full analysis like we do on our podcast, but I thought it would just be a good time to reminisce on some stuff. This was immensely hard to come up. I mean, I sort of knew where 5 or 6 would go right away, but then filling in the gaps was brutal. But, you know, in no particular order, I have 10 albums here that just have meant a lot to me that I still revisit and I think are important. So the first album that I reviewed, Steven Wilson's Raven That Refused to Sing, I mentioned that. That's on there from 2013. These are in chronological order mostly. Haken's The Mountain, which was really important in discovering them, and another album that made me just want to do this. Big Big Train, English Electric Part 2 from 2013. That album, I mean, just discovering that band has just changed my life, and I still am immensely just grateful they exist to this day. Flying Colors, Second Nature from 2014. I decided that's my favorite album of the 3, but it's a tough call. Neil Morse Band, Similitude from 2015, of course. Deer Hunter, Act 5 from 2016.
5?
It was close, man. 4 or 5, but I decided
I was expecting you to say 4.
It's pretty much a tie, but 5 gets it just because the first and last song on it are just, they just are so important to me. Liquid Tension 3 from 2020, particularly important to me because I got to interview the band via Zoom for the Blu-ray for that Daniel edited and put together, and that was a secret project we got to work on before anybody knew the band was even reuniting. So that was pretty awesome. And
Day zero.
Yeah. And Dream Theater, View from Top of the World from 2021. Again, getting to spend a week with them in New York while they were finishing up that album and do interviews and stuff with them was just unbelievable pinch me moment. Transatlantic, Absolute Universe, and Tears for Fears to Tipping Point, which again I will say is a prog album. So that's my 10. John, you want to go? By the way, I'm not reading your comments. I'm ignoring them. John?
That's probably wise.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got 3 that you mentioned in there, so I'll just go ahead and start with those 3. I put Similitude and Great Adventure together as one because they just go perfectly together. Transatlantic, Absolute Universe, and then View from the Top of the World. I think that is just back to the Dream Theater that I really kind of grew up with, so that was really cool. And then going back into my childhood with Styx and Kansas, they both put out 2 new albums, or they each put out 2 new albums that were just phenomenal. In thinking back to their early roots and how they kind of brought that prog back for those 2 right there. Let's see here. I also really enjoyed the last NMB Neil Morse Band album, Innocence in Danger. I think the 2 prog, or the 2 epics on the second on the Danger one, those are just up there with all the other classic ones that Neil has done. And then I'm a little more partial to Third Degree from Flying Colors, but that Last Train Home is just one of my top, easily my top 15 songs of all time. And then a few others just to throw out there. I got into Magic Pie, thanks to the Prog Report. There's a bunch of bands that I would not have found had it not been for listening to some of the things that you guys have brought up and so forth. Magic Pie is one of them. King for a Day, just a great song. Spock's Beard, Noise Floor. Is that their last one that they've done officially?
Yes.
Yeah, that's got some great tracks on it. And then I loved Nick DiVirgilio's Invisible. That was great to see him do pretty much almost everything on there. And then just a more recent one that Roy and I really kind of connected over is Crown Lands. I know it's not for necessarily everybody, but I really enjoy that what they're all doing, and that's just been for the past, what is it, like 2 months or something like that they've kind of broken out again. So I've really appreciated all that stuff.
Awesome. Kyle Graves.
I knew some of those.
Good list, man. For me, the first one that popped into my head when you went over 10 years, I'm like, it's like what you said. There's so many to choose from, so many great records that won't even make the list. But Sound of Contact, man, that record came out, and I to this day haven't stopped listening to it, and it's one of those records I never get tired of. I'm sort of always.
I didn't know you were into that. That's great. Yeah,
love that record. Love that. And for anybody that hasn't listened to the E Molecule record yet, it's Simon and the bass player.
Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly. From Sound of Contact, and it's a really strong record as well. But I love that record. Again, don't ever get tired of that one. You guys know I'm like, I love prog rock, but I love prog metal. So that's my list is a little heavy, man. My boy Victor over there. Fates Warning. Hard for me to choose. I'm a huge Fates guy, but Theories of Flight from 2016. The Light and Shade of Things. That song by itself, it's 10+ minutes long, and for a band that's been out for coming up on 40 years now, that's as good as anything they've ever done. Also on the metal side, Redemption. You guys know I love Redemption. The Art of Loss came out, I think it was 2018. Last record with Ray from Fates Warning. Haken, Vector. Tough choice on that one, but I love Puzzle Box and Nail by Mouth and all those kind of super heavy technical songs. I know the Whirlwind is like the high water mark when we're talking transatlantic. And it is for me too. That certainly, if I had to pick one, but Kaleidoscope I thought it was a great record. 2014, pulling out of the dock for Progressive Nation at Sea, for them to be doing Into the Blue. It's just amazing, man. Which, by the way, I also met Kyle first out of this whole group on Prog.
Yeah.
Wearing a blue beard. He had a blue beard and a wig on. And anyway, Leprous Cole, also 2013. That was the first time I heard Leprous, and I was like, what is this guy doing with his voice? I've never heard anybody do that. But I really love how they've evolved over the years. But hearing The Valley for the first time, or the Cloak was the first single I heard, and I was just like, this is different. These guys are progressing music, what it's all about. What else is on my list here? We'll just round it out. Well, Pain of Salvation, 2017, Passing Light of Day. Loved Panther, but that one edges it out a little bit. And then, of course, Similitude and Great Adventure. I totally agree. It's one record, so I count those both. Really, really, really hard for me to choose between those two. I guess it would edge a little bit with Similitude, but just solid all the way through. So that's my list. I don't even know if that was 10, but
no, it's cool. Killer, man. Good stuff. I didn't know you were a Sound the Contact and Leprous guy. That's
love it.
That's
both
a surprise,
of them,
but very cool. All right, Dan, how about you?
It's me. Okay.
Me.
I want to go back to the first review I wrote for the Prog Report, which was The Reign of Kindle, Happy However After. And for the longest time, I was the Reign of Kindle guy, and that's how I joined the team, was through that review. And I proved myself to Roy, and that I could write a couple words, pretend they have meaning.
I don't remember that being the first review you did. That's wild.
Yeah. You asked me, like, hey, can you review that for the site? I said, yeah, all right. And then one of the next ones was an album, one of those that I only knew because of you. I was already a big fan of Beardfish, and they released Comfort Zone a little bit before it. I'm a big fan of that album. It's getting an honorable mention here. And Rickard's released a solo album called Friendship, which is an album that I go back to all the time. I love everything about that record. And that was like the start of my journey in the site. And I remember right after I joined the site, I asked Roy, hey, so now that I'm here and we're doing podcasts, eventually you're going to have to get Michael Romeo and let's do a Symphony X podcast. And Roy, like a genie, granted my wish. And that was one of my favorite moments at the Prog Report. But let me keep going with the albums, because a lot of my favorite albums ever came out this past decade. A good one to mention is, of course, Raven That Refused to Sing by Steven Wilson. Is one of a magnum opus, and Hand Cannot Erase It. They're like neck and neck. Opeth, Pale Communion, one of my favorite Opeth records. It's amazing. Pain of Salvation has In the Passing Light of Day. Caligula's Horse, with one of my favorite albums ever as well, Rise Radiant. A big company for the pandemic, and during those times was very helpful. Also, Leprous, Congregation, Haken, Affinity, Riverside, Shrine of New Generation Slaves, Deer Hunter, Anti-My. I'm probably at around 10, but I'm getting
past 10.
Yeah, don't worry.
A long time ago.
Don't worry, there's 20 more.
Yeah, there's 20 more. I just have a couple more to mention. And one of them is Better Seeking Animals, Prehensile Tales, which I think is a fantastic album. And it's one that I think our group sometimes kind of everyone's listening to the same thing. And there was a moment in time that not all of us, but almost all of us were listening to that album and really connecting through it. And those are always good moments. And my last mention is The Absolute Universe, which holds a special place in my heart. And it has a big story. And this story starts somewhere with Roy making the connection between me and other artists and making that work in a lot of ways. And that became something on that year, like 2020, 2021, that I worked with a lot of musicians that I'm really, really fan of. And I have Roy to thank, and Christian as well, of course. But it was an incredible privilege to work with Transatlantic and Sons of Apollo and Liquid Tension Experiment and Ross, you know, and I can't keep name dropping stuff. But it was like the coolest thing that happened. And it's something that I never imagined in my life, that I would like speak to those guys and work with them and have build a relationship, you know. And it's very, very rewarding to have the recognition and see your work and feeling proud of it and that kind of thing, especially in a field that we're so passionate about, like music, and especially the music specifically that we love. So yeah, I know I went on a tangent about beyond albums and artists and everything, but this is also my way of saying congratulations to the whole team, to Roy, and also, as Nick said earlier, being thankful for the friendship and what we cultivate here every day. These days, not every day, because I know we've been busy, but most days. And you guys are a special part of my life, and we're all here.
Thank you, man.
So yeah,
awesome. Hey,
what probably a lot of people don't know is Daniel was 19 when we all first met him, and we're all a little bit older. Some of us are a lot older, but Daniel was like a kid. So for him to kind of to realize his dreams of working with a lot of these big artists is
his
very
dreams
cool.
of hanging out with old dudes.
Yeah, barely legal when we started.
Dan, was the first thing you did with Mike and those guys, was that the jellyfish video? Was that the first thing?
I think yes. I think so. You're right. I had forgotten about that, but
and then Prog from Home. So that was like the initial.
Yeah, Prog from Home is like the beginning of that kind of thing. Actually, the beginning is our cover videos. The one for Kyle.
That's correct.
For Kyle's
that's the one that I did everything.
Right, but working with like Mike and then that whole thing, I think it was Prog from Home and then Jellyfish doing the
video. that double thing. And that, like, dude, I cannot imagine putting all that much work with the routine, like with my day-to-day I have today. It's impossible. Yeah, it was a tremendous amount of work.
Lockdown was amazing.
That was really it did. It got us.
We need another pandemic.
We did a lot of stuff during those 2 years that we probably could not do today. So
it was. And Prog from Home was like our baby. It was a 3-hour long baby. It was a headache in many ways. I remember I was rendering and we had like render problems and then uploading problems.
And I'm emailing you every hour. Is it done yet? Is it done yet?
Yeah. I was going insane, but it was awesome. Like, I remember watching it, just sitting back and watching it after watching it 300 times and seeing that at some point we had like 6,000-7,000 people. I don't know. It was an insane amount of people joining in on that. And I was honestly expecting like 500-600 people.
Like Nick said something about, doing something like that again. I think the thing about Prog from Home is that we'll probably never be able to do it again.
Yeah.
And I can remember as part of
that
Roy and I sort of took, there were a lot of people who we really didn't have a big relationship with, in terms of the artists. And, just pinging off messages to some of these people going, look, we're thinking of doing this. And then, 48 hours later, someone sends in, a really brilliantly produced video.
And the stuff that we got sent, the whole idea to do it, I don't even remember where the whole idea to do it came from, but it was like, we felt like we wanted to do something. And there was other sort of things like that happening on TV and stuff like that. So maybe we just said, let's do one for Prog. I don't remember really where it started, but I do remember talking to probably you, Jeff, first about it, I think.
It was the two of you that masterminded it.
And then if I have this right, I think the first person I contacted was Mike, because I figured if Mike says yes, then I think we have an idea here that we can go with. I sort of felt like that. And he emailed right away, like, absolutely, I'm in, and I have a great idea, and I want to do Jellyfish and blah blah blah. And I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then we just started emailing people. And we got all the stuff back and put it together and did the whole thing. It was like in 2 weeks. It was insane.
Yeah, it was.
And
insane.
how many views now? What are we up? What are you up
130?
to? 130,000. Yeah,
it's pretty
amazing.
Pretty crazy. I mean,
it's still a great concert, man. Sometimes I go back to it. It was, and I had surgery and that thing, like I had to stay home because of the pandemic, and I was recovering, so I was
It
looking
was
at
a
my
jaw
face
surgery. I
before.
just want to just clarify, just a jaw surgery, right?
Yeah. Nothing beyond that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I was looking at my face because we all said something during that video. And I was like, "Hello, welcome to Proud from Home." It's funny how those things over time we change in that sense too.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, it was insane. It was cool that we did that. I think in a way, it put us on a map for a lot of people, but it also helped a lot of people connect during that time. That was really needed. I think that and the We All Need Some Light video that we did around that time resonated with a lot of people.
Mhm.
Especially, I remember that came along with one of those signature Kyle Graves wall of texts. There was some beautiful words in there, and always hits home. So yeah, that around that time were some horrible things happening outside of these walls, but inside, the magic was here.
Yeah, that started out like I'm an x-ray tech, and I had a patient fall on me and break my wrist, and I'm like, the pandemic had just started and I'm recovering from surgery and everything, and I'm singing that song around the house thinking maybe Daniel and I can just do like a little acoustic version of it. And then we opened the floodgates and all you guys joined in, and it turned into this great, amazing thing to try to bring some light into the really dark world we were all in. That was super cool. That was like the first one we all really came together on. I didn't even own a microphone at the time. I had to buy I sang into my Victor was like, take your phone and sing into your phone. And then
in your closet, right? Go to your closet, get your phone. Yeah.
That was a good.
The rest is history.
Among the real shitty time that it was a lot of cool stuff came out of it. I'm immensely proud of the Prog from Home. That was a really cool thing to be able to do with everybody. It was
our baby.
Amazing. Yeah. All right, let's continue along the list here. Vic, how about you go?
When you asked us to put the list together and whether it was special events or whether it was albums, I had an idea that people were going to be picking things that were very obvious, and my list would include all Neil Morse, all the Dream Theater stuff and everything else. There's a couple of things, and I tend to be the heavier guy, kind of like Kyle. Yeah. So the first album that jumps to mind, because I got to do the review for this and we did a really cool podcast, is with Dan Briggs, the bass player for Between the Buried and Me. So you have Automata. That was a great CD and a lot of fun to listen to. But you have Maps of Non-Existent Places by Thank You Scientist. That was terrific. Mm-hmm. There's also The Moron Police. Is it a Boat at Sea? Then you also have a band that is no longer around. They did one album, and that was Native Construct, A Quiet World.
These are all great albums.
Well,
yeah,
and those
really
are all like one, but they're on my rotation. They just it's interesting. A lot of these reviews, I sit down and listen to it with my son, and he's the one that starts talking about how cool things sound and everything else. So now that he's off in college and I play something for him, he's like, oh, that was really cool. And for him, it was a lot longer ago than it was for me. Moments, Progressive Nation at Sea. I mentioned this before, but man, when Neil got to sing June and The Light, that reunion was absolutely just galvanizing in helping us sort of grasp the hope of, hey, this is still can happen. I remember Nick talking with Neil and just imploring about Spock's getting together and doing Snow, because that's the biggest travesty. They never got to do Snow live, and we got Snow 16. I wasn't there, but wonderful to have that. And Nick already mentioned it, just sitting with Roy, sitting with Nick when The Great Nothing is playing at Morse Fest 18. That's a great moment. Just a lot of emotion. I mentioned it before. Nick mentioned it. I'll mention it again because it's just worth it. I love how we interact in our podcast on doing things creatively, like, picking your fantasy band, or picking or having something like brackets, like March Madness, but it's Prog Madness. Just all those things that have really used our passion for music and used our passion for the artist, and just having a whole lot of fun. Because that's what we like to do. We love to hang out. We just love to talk music. We love to talk life as well. And just the thing that blew me away about this group, and again, not necessarily the Prog Report, but the talent that these guys have musically. Not only are they music fans, but man, these guys are musicians, and they can put some really cool stuff together. And that's just really cool. And the album that I think sort of brought everything full circle for me wasn't a big band, but it was some big names. When John Petrucci announced that Terminal Velocity, his long-awaited second solo album, came out, and that Mike Portnoy was going to be playing the drums, that was a big turnaround, because one of the things that a lot of us struggled in music, Neil had left Spock's Beard, Mike had left Dream Theater. The two of them sort of intertwined in some really cool musical projects, and all these wonderful things came out. Progressive Nation at Sea came out. If Mike was in Dream Theater, I'm not sure Progressive Nation at Sea would have happened. And when Terminal Velocity comes out, that's still in my rotation. And I had a great time with Fagala and with Roy, seeing them live in Orlando. That was absolutely terrific. So not necessarily a top 10 albums list or everything else, but that's just kind of a microcosm of the wonderful ride that this has been. And again, knowing Roy from before this all started, and how we were just fans of all this stuff, and suddenly we are, doing podcasts with these idols of ours that we've just been such fans of for a long time. And for them to know us by first name basis is just a really odd, unexpected, wonderful blessing. So that's
Right
where
on,
I
man.
stand.
Thank you for that. Very cool. All right, Kyle.
Yes, I don't have to go last. Wait, Jeff, have you gone yet?
No.
Right, Jeff gets to go last.
Jeff
Okay.
Report.
The best for
So
last.
there's so many other albums that could be on this, but I decided to do in the first 5 minutes of this stream 5 albums and 5 events. But I think it's pretty good. So albums for me, we've already mentioned, I think every one of these except for 2. But Hand Cannot Erase, Steven Wilson, 2015. For me, the Riverside album of this era is Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. I still listen to that pretty often. I also like Wasteland. I reviewed that. But, Similitude of a Dream, Neil Morse Band, 2016. And then I love In the Passing Light of Day, Pain of Salvation. I think that one also is stands out for me, and I go back to it because of getting to see them in concert during the little brief period they had Ragnar in their group, which I think they were incredible. And he filled in when Daniel was out, and they're such a good live band. Okay. And then Vic, you mentioned this album that I didn't expect to get mentioned necessarily, but it's Terminal Velocity by Petrucci. I think just what that sort of represents. And so I think that there's, certain milestones along the way with this group. I think 2014, Progressive Nation at Sea, like seeing that as sort of like a beginning of a lot of these relationships in many ways, and on through the Morse Fest and so on. But just knowing that Portnoy was kind of out of Dream Theater, like effectively 2010, and then 10 years later, Terminal Velocity coming out at a time during lockdown where, we needed an album like that. And it was so positive and uplifting, and getting to review it and so on was a cool moment. An honorable mention is, speaking of more milestones, Spock's Beard's the first 20 years was a really great greatest hits package. And it had, I think, one of the best songs, if not the best song of the entire last 10 years, Falling for Forever. It's such a cool song.
Good shout out for that one. Yeah.
Love
So a little special shout out to that. It's so good. And so many of the artists that we've gotten to spend a lot of time around, and that I think really highly of, all in that same track. Okay. And then events. I have 5 events. Like total shocker here. Progressive Nation at Sea, 2014. what an incredible event. I remember meeting Kyle Graves at a bar, I think after the Beatles little acoustic gig. I could be wrong. I think he took a photo of me with Mike. Probably my first photo with Mike. So there you go. And that was my second photo, but who's counting? But what a cool event on so many different levels. For me, the first Morse Fest, yes, I was there. Who else was there?
Me.
Daniel, John, Kyle. What a cool time. It almost felt like we were getting away with something. Like it was just so special and unique. And I remember
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. Yeah. Doing trivia and stuff. It just was so surreal. So that Morse Fest, plus I think Morse Fest Snow for me still stands as the best one, at least the best single night, because it was just an unexpected moment. Snow is one of my all-time favorite albums and so on and so forth. Another cool one, a lot of us were on Cruise the Edge 2017 where Mike did his 50-year party. And just, I think anytime you're somewhere and there's all these like unexpected, moments and artists that get together, and Liquid Tension more or less getting together, and Jordan getting up there with Mike and so on. Really, really cool. Then Shattered Fortress. This has not been mentioned yet, but I think Mike revisiting Dream Theater was a really cool thing, especially along with the Haken Gents. That was awesome. Getting to go to New York to see that. Now, one that I think I was the only one at this event, but Morse Fest 2020, the lockdown event. Here's the shirt. I almost wore that. But there was like you were there on the video screen.
Yeah, no, I designed the shirt.
Oh, you designed this shirt. I'm not very fond of it, but it's a joke.
Dude, that was job.
Yeah. It's a joke. It's a great shirt. It is set folded in my closet ever since. It smells like White House. Anyway, so
Waffle House.
Waffle House. Yeah, I think there were 31 of us there or something like that, but it was awesome. The covers night was incredible. It was the first concert I've been to in like 9 months, which made it, in particular special. I got to play drums with Neil. It was awesome. I had to wear a mask, but And then lastly, Morse Fest 2022, when we didn't have to stand in line for seats because they were reserved and we got to go hang out together. I think for me, I see that as sort of the culmination of a lot of these relationships that have mostly been digital and from afar, but thanks to this podcast, thanks to Roy, thanks for this whole crew, we've really become really close, and it's always a pleasure to get together, whether it's digital, but let's be honest, it's more fun in person. So, and thanks to everyone who watches this thing. Okay, I know we're not done. We got to go to Jeff, but that's sort of my like 10-year walk down memory lane. So
nice one, man. Good memories there. Good albums chosen. Nice job. All right, Jeff, let's hear yours.
I feel like the post-credits sequence. Yeah, I had made a big list of things. I was glancing back at the website. I think the first album that I reviewed was Bad Dreams.
Oh my
Chrysalis.
God. Bad Dreams.
Are you serious?
In November, well, I've searched on the site under my name, and the first time my name appears is November 2017. You liked that so much that in May 2018 you asked me to review another album. Which was
a small gap.
NMB Similitude Live.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh.
And then I'm pretty sure that the next album that I reviewed, which was in August 2018, was one that I suggested, which was Southern Empire Civilization, because I'm not even sure that you'd heard that at that time.
Yeah.
But running through so I have a big list, and lots of the things on it have been mentioned. So I'm going to pick out the Jeffest albums of the last 10 years.
Must be a report of some sort.
Probably the albums that I like. That
the Jeffest albums. Oh, that is a podcast in itself, right there.
That most people didn't. I did have. 2013. I did have Sound of Contact, Dimensional for sure. And Spock's Brief Nocturnes, the first album with Ted, which I thought was a really strong album. 2014, one I suppose that came into a lot more people's radar after Prog from Home, Tiger Moth Tales, the Cocoon album, the first Peter Jones album that I'd come across. And an album called Sanctuary by Rob Reed from Magenta, which is kind of a Mike Oldfield style thing. And I guess the thing about the two of them is that they probably, well, Rob's been doing stuff for years, but I guess that kind of stuff came onto the radar, round about the same time as the site was starting. 2015, it's been mentioned already, Thunder Stolen. I have Spock's Beard Falling for Forever written down for 2015. And again, I agree, it's probably my favorite Spock's Beard song.
And the live version of that is just outstanding when Ted and Nick and Neil do the little acapella thing. Oh, that's just
my favorite Spock's Beard song. Wow.
That's heavy.
As a sort of, it's not a bonus track, but like as a track on a greatest hits, that's wild. And it is that good.
It's 20 minutes long.
Proceed.
It's got it all. And Hand Cannot Erase, again, same year. 2016, Similitude. The Anderson Stolt album, Invention of Knowledge, is one that I really like and keep going back to. Because it's a bit tricky to get into, but it's, if you're a Flower Kings fan, it's a really interesting to hear that. And it has to be mentioned, my favorite Dream Theater album of the period, The Astonishing. Have to mention it.
It had to be mentioned on the podcast, and kudos.
Not a surprise.
It is one of my favorite Dream Theater albums. I saw the world live premiere in the London Palladium, and it's an album that I really like. John has mentioned Styx. Again, The Mission. I wasn't really into Styx until I heard The Mission, and then went backwards. So that was great. And Skyscraper Souls, Downs Braid Association, an album that I love from that period. 2018 has been mentioned, but another really great Roiner-related album, See Within. Really, really been listening to that again in recent days. Worth revisiting. And obviously Daniel Gildenlow, Casey, Tom Brislin. 2019, the Best Flying Colors album, Third Degree. And an album that I loved that year, No Man's Love You to Bits, which I imagine none of you have listened to, and if you did listen to, you probably wouldn't like it. But again, Tim Boness,
I haven't listened to it since 2019, but yeah.
Tim Boness, Stephen Wilson have contributed huge amounts, not least even through the Burning Shed store website. 2020, Fish, Weltschmerz, The Return of Kansas, Absence of Presence has been mentioned. Sola Gratia and Neil's kind of lockdown album. And again, as Cal said, done live in Morsefest 2020. 2021, The Absolute Universe, we've talked about it. Ross's album, Shadow of My Future Self, and a particular Jeff favorite, The Future Bites, Stephen Wilson. Have to get it in there. 2022, my word, it's like the floodgates. Probably my favorite Big Train album, Welcome to the Planet. My favorite Marillion album, probably of the last 20 years, An Hour Before It's Dark. Really enjoyed all of the Pattern Seeking Animals, but particularly Only Passing Through. Porcupine Tree, Closure Continuation. Wow, they were back. Rio's brilliant album, which is the Spockiest album of the last probably 5 years, I would say.
Yep.
And then, we end up today with the bizarre situation. I think I want to mention Inside Out to save the embarrassment of those who may not want to mention it. But, we have a label that has, Neil Morse Band, has Transatlantic, has Dream Theater now, has Yes, has Jethro Tull, and Yes and Jethro Tull have just put out albums in the last 2 to 3 months, which are really, really good albums. So I suppose coming from an era, that label's growth has been a really key part of a whole lot of what we've talked about over this period of time, and lots of other labels as well. But I mean, the Inside Out thread runs through everything we've talked about, and 2 really great albums by older bands in the last number of weeks, which have both had probably as good reviews as those bands' albums have had in 20 years. So yeah, long may Prog reign, long may the Prog Report reign, and yep.
God bless the Queen.
That's it.
Awesome list there. And yeah, definitely big shout out to Inside Out and our relationship with them, and all the albums that they put out. And it's an amazing period for this music. We're very fortunate to be able to do this in a time where we like everything that's coming out, and I really
we
believe
don't.
that. I mean, no, I don't say that kidding. I mean, we don't. Maybe not everything is our favorite album, or we love it, or we may disagree on which one we like more than others between all of us and stuff. But generally, everything's, I think, pretty good. Honestly, even when you don't like it, it's maybe just not your favorite kind of thing. You know, you might like more of the metal stuff versus the neo prog stuff or whatever. But I mean, I think all these bands are just killing it all the time.
The fact that
pretty
it's
much.
out there and there's so much volume of prog coming out now where there wasn't back in the, like certainly
Yeah.
the early 80s.
Can
No,
I ask
I-
can I
come
ask
back
a
strong.
question real quick?
Mhm.
When can we expect a second book? Because
Yeah.
I feel like when did the book come out?
2017.
2017. So I feel like a lot of what we've discussed, some of it was on there and some of it was not. I don't know.
There
Just
may or
some-
may not be a follow up or maybe a second edition. I don't know. I've thought about it, but it's just so
Heard
much
it here
work.
first.
It's just so much work. I
Just
can't.
take our reviews.
I'm
and
glad somebody
publish them.
mentioned. I'm glad somebody mentioned that book. That book was quite
Yeah.
an undertaking by Roy. I mean, that
It
he
was
worked
a
on
lot
that
of
for
work.
a
It was a lot of
long
fun.
time.
It was very cool to do. I never thought I would do a book or anything. I'm really proud of it and how it came out. But good God, it was a lot of work.
Well, there's
And,
AI chat now, so that
that's
could
right.
have it
Yeah, maybe if I can use
written in
Chat
about 10
GPT
minutes.
to write it, then that might simplify my life.
But for anyone who's never heard of the book, it
Pick
is
it up.
currently still available in digital format. Yeah.
Yep, on the website. And also some of the other fun things we've done, which I want to shout out. I really enjoy every year when we do our April Fool's jokes. That is always funny, and some have gone over really well and been a lot of fun. Our Progist things we've done the last few Augusts every year have been a lot of fun, and we'll see if we'll do that again. There's always been different things that this group has come with and done, and it's always fun. It keeps me entertained. So I don't know. I may think that covers it. I want to give a big thank you to you guys for coming on board and helping me and becoming good friends and putting up with my shenanigans and my emails and my annoyances. And I appreciate it. I know it's a pain, but I love each and every one of you. And this has been. Doing this website has changed my life, and it's been the best thing I've gotten to do, and I enjoy it, and I hope to keep doing it for as long as we can, as long as people give a shit, and as long as these bands keep doing these albums that we like, and also to
Setting the
everybody,
bar high.
and also and also honestly to everybody that listens to the podcast. I think Kyle said it before, but everybody listens to the podcast and checks out socials and comments and likes what we do. That is wild to me every day that we're in, I don't know, 150 countries or downloaded here and comments from there, and it's still insane.
Number one prog related podcast in the universe.
Apparently, so
In the absolute
It's
universe.
official.
It's official. Someone said it online, so it must be true.
It's on the internet.
And what's really cool too, I want to interject. I think like the music is obviously what brought us all together, but the friendship is, a couple guys have mentioned there's various text threads going off almost every day, almost, hundreds of posts from all of us. And the thing that brought us together as music, the thing that keeps us together is our friendship. Like we actually know each other. We know about each other's families. In 2019, we went on, a bunch of us were on the Cruise to the Edge and literally went from that high of having all these great common musical experiences to I got off the boat. I get a call that my mom was going to the hospital. Long story short, she passed away. Last song she heard was A Love That Never Dies from the Neil Morse Band. And 6 months later, we're all at Morse Fest. And they played that song. First time I'd heard it since she passed away. And I've got snot running down my face. I mean, I'm crying an ugly, ugly cry. And all these guys on the screen just wrapped their arms around me. It was music is the soul of our friendship. And I love everything about it. I love you guys. I'm grateful to be, a little part of the team here.
We love you too, dude.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, man.
Nice ending.
Yeah, that's a good way to wrap it up. All right. Well, we'll see you on the other side of this 10 years, and we'll keep it going. Thanks to everybody again, and we'll see you on whatever the next thing that comes up.
And
Thank
please
you,
let us
Roy.
know what's your favorite Prog Report moment from the last
What
10
were you-
years.
What were your top 36 albums of the last 10 years?
And now we're going to react to the Fifth Symphony.
Well,
Fade
right.
into the love that never ends.
Yeah.
Dies.
Bye, everyone.
The list
See you
that never
later.
ends.
Bye. Happy 10 years.